All right, here's the bridegroom, everybody. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us today. Hold on a minute. I forgot to put my chat in. There we go. Okay, now that we've done that, I want to remind everyone real quick before we get started to hit that like button. Comment. I want to read your comments and let's talk about this. This is the purpose of being live, right? Also, you could share this video. Let's get the message out there because here on these My Two Cents, we talk about Christian news, things going on in the world, and I give my 2 cents. Let's let's share it. Get more people talking about it. What do you say? Also, if you want to help us here at the MNC and support us, you can do that simply by becoming a member. And I want to thank you for doing that right now. Now, what do you say? Let's don't beat around the bush and let's get into this. Let's see here. Our first story is over 1,500 dead in Syria as Christians flee amid ongoing violence. Let's go on down. Let's hear. A long Syrian civil war may have ended in December with the cutting of dictator Bashar al-Assad by a bloodshed, but the bloodshed continues as it stands now. Over 1,500 civilians, including women and children, have been slaughtered in just the last few days. The details are still emerging, but what is known so far is horrifying. Many of the dead are members of the Alawite community, a Muslim sect that and let's see, there you go, dominates the Syrian politics for decades. The new government regime is carrying out revenge killing to eliminate any pro-Assad remnant. One doctor quoted by the Washington Post described entire families were being wiped out. They entered homes and carried out mass killings of all Alawites. Christians are caught in the crossfire. It's if not directly targeted. Some believers are fleeing south with Alawites to areas where the Israelis have established a protected zone for the Druze, another ethnic group in danger, as one young Christian woman declares. The current conflict in Syria does not concern me, but we are its victims. I feel a mix of both fear and anticipation for what lies ahead in the Syria. I should say Syria. Syria is kind of in the same area as Assyria from the Bible. But I flee certain that immigration is the only option. In the wake of the unalivings, I should try to be a little bit more YouTube friendly while reading this. Uh, I'm kind of new to these live streams, everybody. I'm still trying to get the feel of it, but I hope that these edify people out there and that you're getting something out of it, because the idea of these is to talk about things going on in the world and to get people to think more biblically about life. When situations come up in your life, you're able to, oh, okay, I can relate this to the Bible like this. But let's continue. Oh, excuse me, burping. Had some coffee right before I hit go live. Has called for unity and promised justice against the murderers, but he's been linked in the past with groups associated with Al Qaeda. Even more concerning is how common it is for feuds like these especially in Muslim controlled lands, to bring opportunistic persecution of Jews and Christians, though it's not entirely clear in this case whether Christians are being intentionally targeted because they're Christians or because they're there, or our brothers and sisters, members of one of the oldest Christian communities on the planet, are suffering greatly. You know, I know the Christians kind of get a bad rap for, the Crusades, uh, where they went, but really it was just a response to what the Muslims were doing. They were coming into Christian lands and Christian territories and trying to conquer them and kind of trying to wipe them out. Um, so, I mean, I don't really take a bad view on the Christian Crusades. If you have anything you'd like to say about that, put it up in the comments. Maybe we can talk about it. I don't know why my little comment area right here keeps disappearing. Like I said, guys, I'm new to it. I'm trying to get in the flow of it. I'm getting better at it. This is our third live stream. I'm going to keep doing this, and one of these days, I'm going to actually be good at it. What do you think? But let's not beat around the bush anymore. Let's see here. I have a Bible verse to go along with this for you. This is Revelations 12. We are going to read 10 through 12, but I want to specifically focus on verse 11. Let's read real quick. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now, now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, he who accused them day and night before our God. They have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of his testimony. Now, here's the key point. And they did not love their lives so as to shy away from death. Therefore, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea! With great fury, the devil has come down to you, knowing that he has only a short time. Now, I know nowadays, this right here is kind of a hard teaching from the Bible. This whole idea of not loving your life unto death. The even the apostles, the books of Acts. There's a story. I can't think of exactly where in the book of Acts, but it's where they're going around. They just, right after Pentecost, they're going around, they're preaching, they're talking about Jesus, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees bring them in, and they're pretty much like, hey, you guys need to stop teaching in the name. Y'all got to stop this. And they have them flogged and sent out of the. But the key point in that passage is that the apostles didn't go away sad. Oh man, they flogged me. No, the crazy thing is they went celebrating that they were privileged enough to suffer as their Lord did. You see, I think us in these modern times, we go around with kind of like the wrong mindset about these things. Where we want God to take care of us. We don't want to have to suffer. We don't want to have to go through anything. But really, if you really believe in the Lord and you really love him, then you'd be willing to go through this. I mean, there was a while back when all the few years ago now, but those Christians, they were beheaded on that beach by all those Muslims in the mask where you couldn't see their face. Uh, I mean, I don't want that. I don't look for that on anybody. but I'm kind of proud of those people to stand up and be willing to give their lives for the Lord and for what they believe. You know, you can really tell if someone really believes something if they're willing to give their life for it. But I don't want to end this stream. Like I said, these first few I'm going to keep short because I'm trying to get the feel of it, trying to get into the flow of things. And I'm really kind of starting to feel good. Most especially, I know you guys don't see this, but in my new little editing software that I'm using, I'm really starting to get into that. I'm finding I could do some cool stuff, but I know you guys don't know anything about that. Anyways, I do got one more story for you. But before we get into that, I do want to let y'all know that I am going to start, maybe not the next stream, but the stream after that. I do want to kind of try to work into where I don't know if I'll do it right after these Monday streams or if I'll pick another day. But I'm also going to start doing members only streams where if you want to hear those streams, you'll have to become a member. It's something I want to give to those who decide that they want to support us here at the MNC. Just a little extra something for them, just as a way of me saying thank you. But this next story is more of a heartwarming story. I figured that'd be good after a little downer like that. Let's read this one. This one is from this I think it's CBN. Yeah, CBN. So it is, the Lord spoke, a mother heard God's warning. Doctors were shocked when she was right. I don't know how you could hear my story and my testimony and not believe that there is a God. That's how Cameron Cortman describes her miraculous, death defying journey, a remarkable voyage of trust, survival, and true reliance in the face of life altering storms. Cortman, 24, said his family's harrowing experience began when he was 1 year old and his parents were preparing to move to Venice Beach, Virginia. But on the day of their move, something happened that would change the course of their lives. I got sick with an ear infection in the hostel and in the hustle and bustle of moving, he told CBN News. My mom took me to the doctor. She thought it was just a routine ear infection. I had been getting them a lot lately. I know I've had 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son, and I have 2 granddaughters and a grandson now. Yeah, you know, kids get a lot of ear infections, runny nose, especially when they're younger. I almost think it's good for them to go through it. I mean, it's something you don't want, and it can. And if you don't watch it, it will become worse. But I do think it's good for them to get because it builds their immune system. All these vaccines, you know, and all that. I do think they have a purpose, but I do think kind of overdo it, especially here in the States. But that's something for a video some other time. Anyways, I'm rabbit trail. I'm getting off on a tangent. All right. By the way, just a little something about me personally. I grew up with a mom who was an anti-vaxxer, so I haven't had any vaccines. I haven't even had the flu shot and never had the flu. And something I've noticed in my life is that I almost never get sick. Almost never. And when I do, I normally get over it really quickly and it's not that bad. If I mean, if any of you out there have any stories similar, let me know. I'd like to hear it. Maybe I hope I'm not the only one. But anyways, let's get back to this. But Cortman's mom felt deep in her gut that something else was going on. In fact, after the doctor prescribed antibiotics, She paused to share something she experienced on the way to his office. She said, actually, on the way over here, the Lord spoke to me and told me that something is seriously wrong and that we need to go to the hospital, which is just a wild thing to say to a doctor. Cartman recounted. But thankfully, the doctor was a Christian and he said, who am I to really argue with the Lord? So we can send you to the hospital. So we can send you to the hospital. On that same note, I did want to, since I'm sharing today, a while back, I'd say about 4 years ago, I I had a heart attack. It wasn't a massive heart attack, it wasn't a major heart attack, but I was at work, started having trouble breathing, the whole arm started hurting, stuff like that. But I remember they called the ambulance. Sorry, I was getting cotton mouth. But they called the ambulance. They came, they took me to the hospital, and all the tests were showing, oh yeah, his heart's under stress. It looks like a heart attack, but all the doctors kept telling me that oh, it can't be a heart attack, you're too young. Uh Matter of fact, just how old I am, Wednesday's my birthday. I'll be turning 45. And I know I've already mentioned it a few times, but if you want to give me a birthday present, become a member. Help support me in my little endeavor here. I'd really appreciate it. And it'd be a great birthday. But let's go on. So, uh my past is that, my mother passed away when I was 13 of a massive heart attack, and she was only 33. So if I'm 45 and this was 4 years ago, it was right before I turned 41. So here I am, I'm feeling this way. They're saying, "Hey, all the tests are looking like it is a heart attack, but you're too young." I kept telling them, "Well, you guys are saying that, but I remember y'all telling my mom the same thing because she had gone into the hospital and they were like, well, it looks like all the tests say you're having a heart attack, but you're too young. You can't be having a heart attack." They told her it must have been gas, and they sent her home, and the medicine they gave her actually made the situation worse. So she goes home, she takes this medicine, and it just makes the heart attacks where they can't stop it. By the time she got back to the hospital, they couldn't stop her heart from they couldn't stop it. And she ended up passing away, all because they didn't believe that she could really be having a heart attack because she was too young. And now, after they looked, and I had one doctor out of these group of like 4 or 5 doctors that were looking at me, actually stopped and listened and went and pulled my mom's old doctor record, looked at them, and there was something. I remember him telling me, I'm not a doctor. I don't remember what it was. But he said, hey, I saw this in her old doctor. And I said, hey, it's the same over here. So then that made him give me something that was called a angiogram or something, where they go in with cameras and look around. So they did that, and come to find out, yeah, I had an artery with a 90% blockage, and then I had another one with 70 blockage. And apparently, what's going on is what he thinks is that it's a genetic defect that my mother had and passed on to me, where our heart valves, arteries coming from our heart, are smaller than what normal people's are, so our hearts get clogged up a little bit quicker and easier than the norm. So then I ended up having open heart surgery, where they go in, and I actually because they also, after seeing those two, went looking around, saw that I had two others that were kind of like 40% blocked. So they ended up doing a quadruple bypass on me. Took my heart out and did 4 bypasses. So, anyways, all that because of what he said there. It is amazing how sometimes you'll just have that one doctor, who will listen, and sometimes that's all it takes. And I like the fact that right here she had a one that apparently believed in the Lord, that was a Christian. That made things even better. But let's get back to to his little story here. Let's see here. Where were we? I kind of went off on a rabbit trail there and tangent. Let's. Uh, Despite the doctor feeling relatively unconcerned at the time, he knew Cartman's mother was resolute that she had heard from God, so he complied and called an ambulance. A fortunate choice considering what happened next. They start to run pretty much every test imaginable, and they come back a few hours later and say, "We're sorry, 95% of your son's blood cells are leukemia. He probably won't make it through the night," Cartman said. The shocking news was upending the family's lives, confirmed everything my mother had felt. As you can imagine, it's just a mix of utter disbelief and shock, and starting to grieve, and really just confusion of what to do, Hartman said. And I think you kind of immediately go into a mode of, okay, let's figure out the next step. Cartman began intense chemotherapy, which carried its own risk of such for such a young child, and the family began pressing into the community around them, with Cartman expressing how blessed they were to have loving people around to help care for both him and his brother. Learning, leaning into God and prayer through were the main recipe for taking the chaos, for tackling the chaos. Sorry. They just really sought to understand from the Lord how they could be faithful through the journey, Cartman said. These tools were essential as Cartman faced 4 years of hospital stays. Uh, here and other interventions. Along the way, the uncertainty required a profound reliance on the Almighty. It was one of those situations where, okay, I lived a week, then they'd like, let's see how long you can live. And ouch. Ab doctor, wow. Okay, all right. Basically, which is crazy to say, Cartman said. I can't even imagine being my parents and just never really knowing if I was going to make it to the next day, or the next month, or the next year. Remarkably, the cancer eventually disappeared. Something Cartman said was miraculous, and that's not all. What's crazy about the situation, other than the fact that I was completely cured from cancer, is they said to my parents, although he is cancer free, he's not out of the woods. So there is a very good chance that he might not be able to speak like everyone else would. He might not be able to walk. He might not be able to talk. Hartman said nothing. These dire effects could have come from the chemotherapy. He continued, the chances of it having serious side effects on your brain, on your body, is very high. So to go from that to where I am today, a former college athlete who had the opportunity to play sports at the highest level, it's just only God. Amen. Amen. It's just only God. Here, let's go ahead and end this stream with another passage. We're going to read John 8, 46 and 47. Uh, which of you can prove me guilty of sin? This is the Lord speaking. If I speak the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever belongs to God hears the words of God. The reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God. Now, if you belong to God, you should, be in prayer, be listening for the Lord. Because if you really belong to Him, you'll hear from Him. It may not be a tangible voice. It may just be like a feeling, a moving, like feel very compelled to do a certain thing, or it may be doors shutting, doors opening for you. But all this centers around belief in the Lord, prayer, and a lifestyle. But end it there. And I want to thank everyone for watching. Like I said, these first few, I'm just going to keep them short. Next week's, I already have something. I'm going to do a response to another video next week. So if you want to tune back in next week for that, that'd be great. But I'm going to keep them short. And then the week after that, I will probably try to work out maybe after the stream going in behind, I guess I've heard some people call it the paywall, but a members only live stream, or I may pick another date. Stay tuned for updates about that. Also, now that I'm kind of getting the feel of these live streams and new recording software and the new editing software, and I kind of getting in the feel of that. Also, I also have, when I built my new computer so I could do these live streams, I also got my hands on a animation software. So I do plan on learning that. I got to learn it. I don't know anything about doing animation. But when I started all this, I take that back. When I was younger in my 20s, I did kind of take a editing school. I went to American Broadcasting was the name of it. I believe they're still open. I didn't finish for many reasons. Maybe if someone leaves a comment asking, I'll share that story. But I didn't finish, so I do kind of have a background in editing. But back then, oh man, I'm going to show my age. But back then, there was only one digital editing software, and I remember that was called Cool Edit Pro, and it was like new and just out, and people were still trying to figure it out. But mostly what I was learning was editing with film, and you had to cut it at a certain angle and tape it back together. And anyways, it was, man, that's old school. When I was going to the school, I actually got on as one of their, because they had a radio station, and I was a DJ on the radio station while I was going there too. Had the midnight to 4 a.m. spot. So, anyways, played a lot of classic rock. Just so maybe you guys can get a little feel of who I am. Just some no-faced guy coming on here talking to you. But, so back then it wasn't so much digital editing, but man, this digital editing stuff makes stuff a whole lot easier. But I never went into that field. Never went. Heck, I make your street signs. That's my day job. Make all your yields and stop signs. Your Jesse Street, Joanna Street, Dennis Street. Matter of fact, all the street signs right here in the neighborhood where my house is, I made all those for the whole neighborhood. And I make all those big, huge highway signs, big green ones going over the highway. I make those as well. So that's what I do. And but I did go to school for editing, and I'm doing this on the side and trying to see what comes of it. And I hope I edify people out there. But I'll end right here and just say I love you guys. Hit that like button, comment. I'm sitting here watching the comments. I haven't seen any comments. I know these are my first few streams. People got to get used to it. I'm not really expecting much, but we'll see where this stuff goes. But share the video. Um, Subscribe, become a follower. I forgot to say that at the beginning of the stream. But most importantly, you can help support me because there's some stuff I have this microphone here, but I'd like to get a boom arm. Uh, I I'm using my cell phone as the camera, having to connect it to. I'd love to get a webcam or maybe a really nice camera, and you can help me do stuff like that just so I can have better production for you guys by becoming a member. Just become a member of the MNC family. But until next time, we'll see you later. Here's the bridegroom. Here's the bridegroom. Come on out to meet him. Come on out to meet him.